Thank you for joining as we continue our discussions of human history based on the resurrection of the Kushites. We previously discussed that one piece of land stretching from Tanzania to Egypt, occupied by the Kushites for thousands of years. We will continue with that one piece of land, Tanzania to Kenya to Somalia to Ethiopia to Eritrea to Kush or Nubia to Egypt, all one piece of land, once occupied by the Kushite and the Kushite Empire. We will continue the discussion with the people who came after Homo habilis and Homo erectus. And these people, historians, scientists, anthropologists, paleoanthropologists, are telling us that these people are the Khoikhoi of southern Africa who became the Khoisans. And then after them came the Bantu, the Nazlets, the Atarians. And these are the people and the culture who form the Tasseti Empire that became the Kushite Empire, covering all of that one piece of land, including Egypt. Did you know that the original name of Africa was Alkebulan? That was the name that the natives gave to Africa before the birth of Christ. Did you know also that many of those countries on that one piece of land were also renamed? And in renaming Alkebulan and some of these countries, the natives of those pieces of land, they inevitably lost their history, their culture, their heritage. And then later generations of those natives, the Kushites, forgot about their history, forgot about their culture, forgot about their heritage and all the great accomplishments that were made by their ancestors. We will talk about that, and we will show you the ruins of those cultures created by the Kushites before the birth of Christ. Just to give you a few examples of what were lost in the renaming of a country or a continent. The Ishango bone that was discovered 30,000 years before Christ. And this bone was found with inscriptions of mathematical calculations, which also allowed the early Kushites to thereafter invent algebra and other forms of mathematics during their reign in human history. The Naptoplaya is a stone circle invented by the early Kushite to study the stars, representing the first evidence of astronomy and planet Earth. And this stone circle at Naptoplaya was used not only to study the stars, but to also study the weather systems. It was a calendar as well that the farmers used to determine rainfall and to determine when the monsoons would come that would destroy not just their crops but their kingdoms. So the Naptoplaya stone circle is the first astronomical device known to man, invented by the early Kushites. And just to give you one more, the Great Sphinx of Giza was also built by the early Kushites And this great things with the pyramid alignment also was part of not just the worship of the Supreme God, but also they are aligned with star systems still being determined. And no, the Great Sphinx was not built by aliens. No, Naphtali was not built by aliens. And no, Ishango bone with mathematics was not invented by aliens. And there are a lot other accomplishments that change our history, human history, that will be discussed. So here we go. Kemet was renamed Egypt, essentially to remove Egypt from the Kushites. It was renamed Egypt by the Greeks before the birth of Christ. Taseti, which is the original Kush, was renamed Ethiopia by the Greeks as well, around the 4th century BC. So Taseti was renamed Ethiopia, Kemet was renamed Egypt, Kush was renamed Nubia by the ancient Romans looking for gold. Of course, Nubia or Kush was known for its massive gold mines that gave rise to the power of the Kushite Empire. Lake Nalubale was renamed Lake Victoria by the British during the 19th century. And of course, again, Nubia in later years was renamed Sudan. And now you know about the renaming. And now we'll explain to you some of the harms that the renaming has caused on all of us. So the renaming of Alkebulan and the renaming of Kush was the beginning of that land being stripped of its arts, its science, its engineering, and so much that it had created. By renaming Alkebulan, by renaming Kush, it made it so much easier to strip the land and its people of its culture. And as you will see, much of it was carried away to other places in the world. So I say to those places who have parts of Alkebulan and parts of Kushite arts and science and history and heritage, please donate it to museums around the world so that everyone can have access to it, especially the Kushite progenitors that live today. So the renaming of Alkebulan in Kush, which for Kush was the zenith of all Alkebulan natives' achievements. Kush and Egypt were the zenith of the accomplishments of all Alkebulans. Keep in mind their journey from Homo habilis, Homo erectus, to the Khoikhoi, to the Khoisans, to the Bantu, to Taseti, and then to Kush, all that evolutionary culture and achievement was stripped away. And the people who come after were also stripped of their cardinal virtues of culture, the very virtues that are used to create heritage. Thus, the traditions and social norms of these people faded. These very virtues that give rise to the creation of heritage faded away into obscurity. And probably most importantly, the divine worship of the true God for these people, along with the people's spirituality and their moral ethics, also faded away and got replaced by something else. What do you have left when a people has been renamed, their continent renamed, their kingdoms renamed, their culture and heritage taken or appropriated? What remains is a people disorganized in discord with itself, without a land or state, without history or culture or bonds of their cardinal heritage, without aspiration, a people aspiring toward nothing and likewise unable to guide their very children and grandchildren with any attachment to their ancient ancestors, the future generations imperiled and doomed to the same unforgiven fate. I have just described to you the foundations of the last 2,000 years. A people lacking roots or culture inevitably become commodities defined and branded for profit by the few, who will only show disdain and subject all future generations to the same fate. They also are the few that will determine the future of human survival, with all the nefarious tendencies of our planet right now: war and hate and bigotry, global warming. The renaming has a deeper, impactful force than you can imagine, and it should change. We should change it. If we don't change it, we are complicit to all of this. We need courage to change the course of our future. We need to reinvent the future for all our children and our grandchildren. But it should begin with the truth. And the truth is, let's restore what's left of our culture and use it to rebuild our current generation for all future generations. To do so, we must cancel the stains of the renaming. We must cancel Egypt. We must cancel Nubia. We must cancel Ethiopia. We must cancel Africa to restore Al-Kibalin and the values of Al-Kibalin, the dignity of Al-Kibalin. We must restore our history and culture. We must cancel the great lie. We must cancel the great lie that we have carried on our backs for over 2,000 years. We must cancel the medieval and imperial acts of the Jurassic imperial few that threaten humanity's very survival, which is human history and the human future to be built. We must cancel the oppressive citadel of deceptions of our history, world history, human history. We must uncloak the inventions of the Kushites. We must uncloak the inventions of Kushite genius. Finally, we must restore the true actual names of Al-Kibilan and the kingdoms where human history began. Gladly, much of that human history has remained uncancelled and undeleted by the few guardians of the scripture of the Holy Bible with its biblical history, thus enabling the venerable Kushite history and culture to also live on. Of course, its portrait, coherent and filling the unwritten pages of human history left blank to create shadows of entrapment for those unwary of their own history and heritage as they eternally await the redemption of a merciful God who has remained blind to their stains, and a God who is not even of their own. Nevertheless, good prevails among us powerless mortals